This is my message to Boris Johnson. Every single person you see in the news stories about Ukraine is a human being, just like you, with hopes and dreams. And but for the lottery of birth, it could have been you, forced to flee for safety with your family. I should know. It happened to me. My name is Stephen Frank. I was born in Amsterdam in 1935, and I was almost 5 years old when I witnessed the march of German jackboots upon the cobbled streets of Amsterdam. Very exciting for a 5-year-old. Little did I know the sinister intentions of why they were there. We had a very happy life. My father was an eminent lawyer. I had 2 brothers and my mum, and we lived in a lovely house on the southern districts of Amsterdam. Life was happy and contented, and I still have wonderful, wonderful memories of those early years until the Germans invaded and life began to change. With the occupation, my father joined the Dutch resistance, and he was very much involved in finding hiding places for Jews to hide. We even had Jews in our own home from time to time. He was also a link in a chain that helped Jews who were desperate to get out of Holland to have false papers made for them, which they would collect from my father's office, because he was a lawyer, and as a lawyer he was only allowed to give legal advice to Jews. All non-Jews were barred from his services, so they were quite normal for them to be there. And with these papers, they would get them through Holland, Belgium, into France, and over the Alps into the safety of neutral Switzerland. It was in October 1942, my father went to work, he kissed us all goodbye, and I never saw him again. We were suddenly transported out of Westerbork in a cattle truck to Theresienstadt. 39 hours in a cattle truck. Crammed in, no food, no water, no sleep, and a stench that built up in that cattle truck, a mixture of feces, of urine, of sweat. The oxygen levels within the cattle truck were dropping. You could hardly breathe, and then it stopped. And I suddenly heard this great rum as the cattle truck door was slid open, and I remember this great waft of ice cold air that invaded the cattle truck. It was a bit, if you could imagine, you know, you dive into a swimming pool. You get to the bottom and all you want to do is push yourself off from the bottom so that you break the surface of the water as quickly as you possibly can. Well, it was that sort of feeling in ultra slow motion. We'd arrived in Theresienstadt. As the war was ending, things got worse and worse and worse in the camp itself. And my mother, returning from the camp hospital laundry one day, right near the end, was approached by some Russian prisoners of war who knew my mother was a native English speaker and pleaded with her to go into their house. And she went in, and they took her into the attic of this place where they were billeted. And in the attic they'd hidden a radio. Would you believe it? A radio, and managed to power it as well. And they gave my mother pencil and paper, and they knew something was going to be broadcast in English. So my mother wrote down what she heard, and it was Winston Churchill reporting over the overseas service of the BBC from the cabinet war rooms in London that at midnight that night the war would be over. It sort of started off, you know, yesterday morning at 2:41 a.m. at General Eisenhower's headquarters, and so it went on. So my mum was the first to know that the war would end at midnight that night. We got to this RAF reception centre and we were waiting there, and then my mother was being interviewed, and like all these reception centres, you know, there's always a policeman on duty, these buildings like that, some old boy that had been bought out of retirement, and he took pity on these 3 scruffy little boys, and he taught us our first English, which was Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday and Saturday. And then he gave us each 6pence. And that was the first time that a policeman in uniform had said and had done anything kind to us in 5 years. It's an incident that I will never ever forget. And then my grandfather, my mother was able to phone him, and he came and collected us. And that's how we came to England. if the Nationality and Borders Bill had been in place when I arrived in this country in June 1945, I would have come off that plane, I would have gone to the RAF reception centre, and I would have been denied entry into the United Kingdom. I would have been sent, no doubt, to a detention centre somewhere, and then put on a plane and sent back to Holland. When you see these Ukrainians, fleeing, you imagine yourself with the bits of clothes we had on and a little rucksack, and if we had a blanket, we had it tied over the top of the rucksack when we went off to the camps. And I think mainly it's a sort of the fear, but it's a sort of strange fear, because when you're only 9, well, I was only 7 when I first went into the camps, but that sort of feeling when there are people you don't like who've come into your country, and you don't really quite understand why are they there, what are they doing, but you're frightened because you see the fear and the fright in your parents, and you cling on to them and hope for the best that your parents get you out. And then you see the humanity that's shown by the people of Poland, the people of Slovakia, Hungary, and all those countries around there. I mean, I just saw that the other day on the news, a woman from Heidelberg hires a coach with 40 seats and comes to Poland and says, "Are there women and children here who have nowhere to go? Come with me. I have beds and houses and homes for you to come to, so that you can sleep and you can be free of fear." Boris Johnson, please show some humanity. Let some of these people in. Let a lot of these people in. These people will only show you gratitude, as so many refugees did when they escaped from Nazi Germany and came to this country. And their contribution to what they've done in this country has been absolutely enormous. And you will find that these refugees that have come over, whatever their nationality is, they will be eternally grateful for the hospitality and the safety that you've afforded them here. Don't turn them away. That's not humanity at all.